Now, South African municipalities have been told to find sites for mass graves in new regulations detailing how the mortal remains of COVID-19 victims should be handled. Now, this is in case the death rate exceeds the capacity of the available space in the country for graves. Around the world, countries have been forced to find more space to bury their loved ones, those who have died of COVID-19. And in March, the SA Cemeteries Association released a set of guidelines to help municipalities prepare for emergency mass burials or cremations. For more, we're joined now by the chairperson of that association, Pepe Dass. Mr. Dass, thanks very much for your time on the AM report. It's a grim reality that many countries around the world are already coming to terms with. It's now in South Africa. It's a difficult conversation that we need to have, but certainly one that is necessary.
Good morning. Yes, it is. Look, but I think up front, South Africans have been, I think, a bit more progressive than most of the world in terms of, preparing. The decision to go into lockdown initially to sort of circumvent serious issues was a good one, and it also gave us the chance to ensure that various aspects that need to be in place, we had the time to do that. And so the association had sent out a call after looking at the experiences, international experiences, to municipalities. We sent out the call to say, look, be ready in the event we have a spike in the rate of death. Are you prepared to handle such a problem? And I would like to say that I think the municipalities have responded well throughout the country.
So what I see here, what's being described as will be a concern if the death rate does spike, and that's if 10 burials need to happen at the same cemetery on the same day. That's when we're at the point where we need to find alternatives.
Yes, look, the challenge with the number has to be looked against or reviewed against the capacity of cemeteries. Now, it depends on how many people you employ there, the size of the cemetery, whether you can basically have a number of funerals occurring at the same time. You also have the challenge with regards to the number of people gathering within an area, to reduce social distancing, and thus reduce the chances of infection. So those are the challenges that come through. And if there are a large number of burials and these resources now start to get strained, then it may require us to look at other ways of having to deal with efficiently having to deal with burials, and that's the experience that some countries have already had, where they prepare a large number of graves at the same time, and they have processes in place to try and fast track the burial process efficiently and to reduce the number of people at cemeteries, and of course to also try and relieve the stress that's placed on personnel that are employed.
So, according to what you know, are all of our municipalities prepared for this, or just a few of them, a few of the hotspots at the moment?
I would think most of the hotspots, which are the metro municipalities in the country, are definitely prepared. We are lucky that within the association, the executive committee are made up of senior officials that are responsible for these facilities as members. So we're getting information, from our members, and all have assured us that they have plans and contingency plans in place in the event we hit this peak that makes life very difficult.
Yeah, and some of the risks that come with mass burial sites?
Well, look, if it's not properly coordinated and managed, then it can be messy. What's most important is to maintain the dignity of people, and to understand that at a point after burial, life goes on, and families will come back to cemeteries to visit these sites. So if the sites are well prepared and the process is well recorded, there should be no problems afterwards.
Yeah.
So that's.
I mean, you're raising such an important issue here, the maintaining dignity, and I just feel like this issue around mass burial sites, it will be a really bitter pill for South Africans who do find themselves in the position of needing to bury a loved one. This will be something that'll be really difficult for them to come to terms with.
Okay, I think let's clarify what we mean by mass burials. Now, ordinarily we will dig individual graves and the body will go in there. Now, if resources are strained and if conditions are very difficult, especially with the issues of infection, then the recommendation is then reduce the resources, use mechanical means. So using a machine to dig graves and doing it in an ordered way, having within those long trench-like graves, having markers in the ground to indicate where bodies are being placed. That would make it an ordered way of doing it. Now, once bodies are placed there and the ground is backfilled, it's easy to come back later on and demark those graves on the surface, so that it's not necessarily a mass grave; it's individual graves, but the process in which we've interred the bodies into the ground was efficient, and it was all done at the same time.
Yeah, I appreciate that clarity, and I think South Africans watching this will also appreciate that just the term mass graves, I suppose, is something that doesn't conjure up something that's fitting enough to pay tribute to a loved one. But thanks very much for coming on to the AM report. That's Pepe Dass, who is the chairperson of the SA Cemeteries Association.